All right, everybody, welcome. And this is going to be an instruction on how to use StatCrunch to do some of the basic things that you're going to need to know how to do for this particular case study. There are screenshots now. StatCrunch has been a little updated, but the same idea works. But I think videos are going to be where it's at. So, first thing we'll do is we'll go into Moodle, and under Unit 1 assignments, you go to Unit 1 case study on teacher salaries. Now, what'll happen is you'll see a PDF version of that and a new case study 1 Excel. You'll have the paper copy of case study 1. The Excel, you won't have the copy of. You do have the data on there. Oh, and I am also going to open up Word here, a blank document. Now, I'm actually not going to use the new version of this, the new data. I have old data that I'm going to use. So, what's happened here is, this basically explains everything. We're going to copy the data over to StatCrunch. Now, how do we get to StatCrunch? Well, let's go back in our Moodle page, and if we go to My Lab Statistics and My Lab and Stat Mastering Assignments, we open that up, and what we see here is StatCrunch. And ordinarily, some of this would be data sets from your textbook. I actually got tired of that one, so we're going to go to the StatCrunch website. And it looks a little different from how it used to. So we're just going to open StatCrunch. And this is what we get. So then what I'm going to do is I've opened up the data. Now this is the old data. So don't think of this as your data. This is old. I changed some of it. On sheet 1, there's the vertical column. Sheet 2, this is how it's a nice 5 by 10 column. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll down and click on, right click and copy, and on StatCrunch I can actually hit Control V to paste this. And the other thing is I'm going to change this to teacher salary, or just call it teacher. So that's how we get the data. Now, the other way to do the data is to, you could type it in manually. But the Excel file's right there. I think this makes it a heck of a lot easier. Now, the data is called teachers. So how to find column statistics, that comes into play, especially when it comes to mean and standard deviation. So to get column statistics, we go back into StatCrunch, and under Stats and Summary Stats column, we'll select this teacher, and we'll have the mean and standard deviation, and you can shift click or control click. If you shift click, it shows all of them, but if you control click, it'll do all that, and IQR and all that. We can actually do that at another time. So what we can do, you can even do percentiles, and you can even store this in a data table, but we'll compute this. And this is what we get. And one thing we can do is we can expand this, we can contract it, we can copy it, we can actually do this. Now, I'm using a PC, so I can highlight this and hit copy or Control C. And then in my Word document, after you've done the basics here, this is the summary statistics. And you would say the mean salary for teachers is $41,264. Word to the wise, this is not going to be your final answer. Now, StatCrunch doesn't save. At least, I don't think it does. We go to Untitled. I haven't fooled around with that. Oh, maybe we can save that. but let's just assume for the time being you can't. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to save this as I work. I'm just going to save it to this PC, desktop. Case study 1. And that way, you would save that to your flash drive or whatever. Every time you do something, I always hit the save button. I'm just a bit of a little paranoid about something happening. So what we then can do, that we can get questions 1 and 2 done for us right then and there. Now, we're going to start off with $25,000 in a bin of $5,000. Now, that's under Helpful Hint 3. So what we can do is, create bins and histograms. So we're going to go to Data and Bin on here. So Data, and why it's doing that, I can't tell you why. So yeah, go to Data and Bin. We need to select the column, and that's Teacher. And we can define bins either automatically or using fixed width. We're going to use fixed width here. Now, that's same thing as what we did when I said you start here and you do this. Automatically would be a certain number of groups, and it does it that way. Instead, we're just going to do a fixed one. So to do that, we'll start at 25,000, and then we'll have a bin width of 5,000. And we'll include the left endpoint, and here's what happens. We compute that, and it does put each of these salaries in a certain bin width if you scroll down. Now, the next thing we need to do is to make a histogram with that. So we're actually going to go to Graph and choose Histogram. So you'll need to go to Graph and Histogram. Now, we'll choose, teachers. All right, we're actually going to make a frequency table before we do the next part. So what we need to do is we go to Stat and Tables and choose Frequency. We're going to choose Bin Teacher, and you can do either frequency or relative frequency, and then compute it, and here it is. And so what we can do is, we can just copy this over. I did both frequency and relative frequency. And so I believe that was question number, that was question number 3. That was just part of it. So, yeah. So you can just copy it over. Now again, I'm not 100% sure how it works on Apple or Macs, but it works pretty well for PCs, at least for me. So then the next step would be, how do we make a histogram with that? So how do we make the histogram? We go to Histogram and select the teacher column, and we'll do the 25,000 for start and then 5,000 here, and then we'll compute, and there it is. And here's the really neat thing. If you highlight that, it will tell you down here how many rows there are. So I can clear that. In that case, there was only 1, and it showed that one. In this case, it was 15 and 4. Now, the 4 are way down here. And if you wish to copy this, you actually have to click on copy the image, and then paste it to your Word document, and you can resize it or whatever. And of course, I can save it. So that's how we make the histogram. Now, we can also do box and whisker plot. That's actually much easier to do. We can actually, if we go to graph, box plot, select teacher, use fences to identify outliers. You can do it either vertically or horizontally and copy it over the same way you did the previous one. Now, the big part here in this one, now I'm not going to be testing you on this here, but let's say we give each teacher a raise of $4,000. So two ways you can go about doing that would be to take all these teachers and add $4,000 and recopy the data. Now, using StatCrunch, so what we can do to give each teacher a $4,000 raise, we can go to Data, and then Compute, and then... Okay, so in this case study, let's say now we want to add $4,000 to each salary. So what we can do is we can go here, Data, and Compute an expression, and we can do teacher plus 4,000. The reason I choose teacher is because that's the name of the column, and we can label that teach 4K, and there it is. Now, if I wanted to give each teacher a raise of, I think in this problem it's 15%, we can do another stat calculation, not stat, but compute an expression. So teacher plus 0.15 times teacher, and we can call it add 15%. And so what it did was it added 15%, and then all you got to do is do the stat calculations. You choose the summary stats and then mean and standard deviation. So that's all you're going to have to do for this. Now, so if we look here, what percentage is within 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation, and 3. Now, by the way, so I'm going to kind of backtrack. When we find the 5-number summary, box and whisker plot, and outliers, what we're going to do here for number 11 is go back to the original data. So one thing I might do is I might just, Control C and then Control V and change this no outlier, and I'll remove the outliers accordingly. Let's just say, I don't know, just for giggles, these are outliers. And then you do summary stats on that column. And then so you'll compare the mean and standard deviation from the original to the new. Alright, so that should be enough to get you through this. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. So happy statistics.